before we start going live. Hey there, beer tubers! Welcome back to Maxwell Star, your host,
Hi,
Maxwell
Nick.
Star, and Beer Analysis 101 with your host, co-host, Greg,
Maxwell Star.
I guess, and Grandpa's, and Redbeard and Lee. And tonight we're going to take a look at beer, actually, that was, I want to say that was given to us, kind of, by Scott here, the Fuzz. I want to thank her for that. We got this nice can of Moosehead Small Batch East Coast IPA. I do believe that this was released nationwide, but I think it's since disappeared, hasn't it? I don't think it's available in Ontario anymore, or Alberta for that matter. Since you had to, well, you know what? I'm gonna put Scott up on the screen here because he knows a bit more because he works there now.
Unky Scott. So it did get released nationwide, but last I checked, I couldn't find it in Ontario. I happened to find a couple cases just sitting around somewhere, and I was able to snag one and bring it over to Greg. But we have since sent out 6-pack beer sleeves. It's like a sleeve. It's a giant sleeve that you can put over your shoulder, like a golfing sleeve.
Like a cock?
They did that. I know they did that for the Radler, but did they do that for the IPA as well?
No, they did that for the Radler. You're right. They didn't do it for the IPA.
Right, sorry.
Yeah, the small batch IPA got the 12 box. The 12 boxed. They got. You can get them in 12s.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of it. It just flies off the shelf.
Mm-hmm. Must be why it's so popular, because it first came out around 2019, 2020 or whatever is one of their small batch things.
Right. Yeah. And they expanded on it this year.
Yeah.
And put it in 12 packs. And then
they had it
you just
6
can't
packs
find it
before in 2021, I think.
Yep.
Well, I first reviewed it in 2020, and that's the same time that the West Coast one came out, at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I guess that one wasn't as popular, apparently.
Well, I thought I heard through the grapevine we might be coming back. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So, yeah, we'll talk about that in here in a second.
Sure.
But first of all, I want to introduce the panel. We'll start with the first person who showed up tonight, which actually is the Beard. Hi, Redbeard. How you doing tonight?
I am well. Thanks for having me. Nice. Thank you for sending beer, Scott.
Right on. All right, let's move over to who's second? Greg. Hi, Greg.
Jesus, Carrie's happy face is terrifying.
It is a little, yeah.
Oh, now it's creepy. Now it's creepy. Face is even worse.
I don't know if he's about to put on a white or a plastic suit and then murder somebody or something.
So I'm coming to you live, Nick, from what was Carrie's bedroom, but now we've taken it apart, and it's now the ghost of Ginger remains. And I'm good.
The ghost of Ginger's past.
Ghost of Ginger's past, present, future, and yeah, we're here.
What? No albino rhino shirt.
Oh, I fucked up. See, I got my Batman shirt. I forgot to change. See, I'm unprofessional. This is why this show is going to hell in a handbasket. Nick, cancel your entire channel.
That's why it only has two watchers.
Right.
Yeah, I know. No comments yet, but creepy watchers.
It'll come eventually. All right.
Eventually, everything comes.
Yeah. Do you think I don't? Do you think I do this for the viewers?
I assume you did it for
because I'm bored on a Wednesday night.
I assume you did it for the profit.
Hi, Lee.
Speaking of which, I don't know what speaking of which means in that context. When you all of a sudden you say hi, Lee. Are you saying that I'm one of your two viewers, or that I'm really bored?
I'm just saying you would probably be here because you're bored on a Wednesday night. It's the biggest excuse to be here.
I'm trying my best as a socially awkward person with extreme anxiety when it comes to talking to people and social interactions to be a normal human being and be friendly with other people of similar like-minded attitudes and opinions. And I'm here on the show to support you, Nick, and I don't appreciate that kind of shit talking. And considering I founded this show in the first place, you son of a bitch. So just
going that route.
So just count your blessings that I'm here, and let's move on.
I feel like you abandoned your child, and now you're claiming parental rights after all these years when Nick has toiled to keep it alive. I don't know about that.
I've got to toil to keep it alive like Frankenstein's monster at this point. I've just sort of been chugging adrenaline, like sticking adrenaline in, keeping that heartbeat going on.
You made your choice, Mr. Lee. You put that baby in a basket and you sent it down the river, and Miss Nick found it and he breastfeeded it to good health.
See, I was trying to be like
it suckled on my teats for the last 6 years.
All right, I'm not even. I did have something to say, but I'm not commenting after that.
Let's not talk about teats. Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Hey, Scott. How you doing today, Scott?
I'm doing all right. Doing very good.
Good.
Yes. Just doing good. Just doing good. Working hard at the Moosehead. Doing good.
At the Moosehead.
At the Moosehead.
Good to know you're still employed.
Yes.
Right on. All right.
Let's moose from the head.
Put me on screen here, and I'm going to read the exact same history that I read on the last episode that we did. What was it? It ended up being Moosehead Mystery Beer, but it ended up being Moosehead Lager. It's just the cool ass can with our names.
Did everyone save their cans?
Yes, I did.
I did too.
Probably can't see
Scott?
it.
I meant to.
Oh, wait, maybe you can. It is. It's on my back shelf there. Very bad.
I think I accidentally put mine into recycling, so I don't know if it's still around.
Mine's right.
I put a lot of work in that, Greg.
I'm sorry.
He learned how to spell.
Yes, just for
us.
I mean, it's still in my garage next to my car in a bag that will be taken back to the beer store in the next few days. So right now it's being kept very, very nice and warm.
With all his other friends.
My can's right there. You can see it.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There we go.
All right, so I mean, we've looked at Moosehead already. Won't go too much detail. Blah blah blah. Moosehead's biggest success story came in with when they hired Scott. Yeah, I said that joke already. Moosehead traces its origins to 1867 when Susanna Olin started the Turtle Grove Brewery in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. After her death, control passed to her son W.C. Olin in 1885, and through several fires, sale to a British syndicate, and ultimately starting again from scratch, George W.C. led the company up until the Halifax explosion devastated the area in December of 1917. After the explosion, it was feared that the rebuilding of the city would take far too long for the company to survive, and in 1918, using insurance money from the damages, George W.C. purchased the Simon Jones Red Ball Brewery in St. John, New Brunswick, sending his son George B. Olin, who had just returned from serving in the First World War, over to run the brewery while he and his son Sidney rebuilt the Halifax Brewery. So there's the split between the Olin family, the Nova Scotia Olin family, and New Brunswick Olin families. In 1928, the company changed its name to New Brunswick Breweries and expanded by purchasing the James Ready Brewery in the nearby town of Fairville, which is what is now the west side of St. John. While sorting through files from the bio, George C. Olin discovered one of the James Ready's unused trademarks, the very Canadian-sounding Moosehead brand. In 1931, Moosehead Pale Ale was launched, becoming popular enough that the brewery changed its name for the last time in 1947 to Moosehead, and then followed it up with a more popular and well-known classic Moosehead Lager, the one we know and love, for export to the U.S. market originally in 1977. So today, Moosehead is still family-owned and operated in a company under the command of Andrew Olin, the CEO, with his IT guy, Scott Myers, and with the Labatt, Molson, and Sleeman's all under foreign ownership. All those other brands are under foreign ownership. It's currently the largest independently owned Canadian brewery under Canadian control. The brewery is still located at the original site of the James Ready Brewery on St. John's West Side. In 2018, they opened up their small batch brewery adjacent to the main brewery. Used to be part of the distribution end where the trucks loaded, I think. And there's actually still trucks on the other side that load in there as well. But they got a really nice little brewery in there. I took Redbeard in there one time. I don't know if I took Lee there. I don't think I did.
I don't know. Maybe we went.
No,
I can't remember.
Well,
I was
next time you're over, we can do. Yeah, I know you were. All right, so the small batch brewery, they've been brewing new recipes as well as bringing back old classics. Some classic beers that returned are the approximation of Suzanne Nolan's first beer, October Brown Ale, as long as the long discontinued classics such as Tenpenny Stock Ale and their London Export Stout. So that was two examples of beers. I don't know if the Export Stout's still on shelves. I remember that being pretty half decent. So, of course, Moosehead is pretty ubiquitous in the Maritimes, so we know a lot of these brands. But other beers from Moosehead include Moose Lager, Moose Light, Crack Canoe, Alpine, Moosehead Pale Ale, Moosehead Dry, Moosehead Dry Ice, Moose Radler. They have an entire series of Radlers. Lee's got a Crack Canoe right there in his hand.
Yeah.
There's a line of
it's a
Hop
beer.
City crafty beers, which is, I think, originally spawned from a brewery that Moosehead bought up in Ontario. The James Reddy series, so the James Reddy's a popular budget brand these days, making together like a 4.0 lager, 5.5, 6.0, etc. There used to be Clancy's Amber Ale, but that's been discontinued for years. I used to like that. So tonight's beer is the Moosehead Small Batch IPA. It is a 5.9% ABV, 35 IBU, New England style IPA, released by Moosehead first in draft, I believe, in May of 2020, and then it was canned alongside the less successful West Coast IPA in around August or September of 2020. And then originally released nationally later that year in November. Because I remember reviewing this myself, and I'm getting into my history, I guess, reviewing this myself in the same video that I did the West Coast, because they came out at the same time. But the West Coast kind of disappeared, but they have kind of brought it back in the form of they brewed it for the small batch, so you can go in there and have it on tap. I kind of wish they would put it out in cans again, but I kind of got a hankering for something more West Coasty. Maybe but if I recall correctly, the East Coast was the better of the two. But I don't know. That's enough of that. Let's circle back, and we've got Marston in the comments saying, "What's this week's beer, fellows? What's this week's beer?" Well, we just said it's Moosehead Small Batch East Coast IPA.
Yeah, he came late, but I showed him the can. I think he knows now.
Yeah.
But
Alrighty. So let's circle back around and go into Redbeard and say, what's your history with this beer?
I've had some.
Beer or this beer?
This beer. It was on tap at one of the bars here in town, and went there one night and had a few pints.
Nice. Sounds exciting. Now, didn't you have a can before that? Because it would have been available around the time the piss up was happening.
I don't.
When you were here.
Maybe. I don't recall. It wasn't in my mind at that point, I guess.
Anyway, let's go over to Greg. Hi, Greg.
oh, hi, Nick. How are you?
Not too bad. What's your history of this beer?
Well, the light's coming down. I look like I'm getting ready to go to heaven. But that probably is not the direction I'm going to go. My history is Scott was nice enough to send me a can, and that can broke in transit, but the beer was half still there. So
warranty replacement.
I did save half of it and managed to drink that. That was my first time having it. And then Scott brought over a few that he claims he took with consent, but I think he stole from work.
Nope, I always ask.
Yeah, but does the janitor there have authority to release beers into your custody?
Listen, if they don't answer, I assume positive consent.
Okay.
If they don't answer or if they're already unconscious, then I mean, the important thing is they didn't say no.
Is that yeah? We're talking
That's
about the transfer of beer here, folks. Don't worry. You know, any Google Chat monitors anonymous. I can't say words.
No, in any case of unanswered question, isn't it always just mean yes? Isn't that the
Well,
way?
see, okay. Here's my thought. Here's my thought process.
Psychopaths operate, Carrie.
Here's my thought process on it.
I mean,
If you are choking and you can't answer, and I come up to you and I say, I know CPR. I can help. Would you like help? And they don't answer. I'm legally obligated to actually help them. Same deal.
What if they give you the finger?
That is a negative response.
Then Scott will give him the finger in the bum.
Yeah.
That's his special kind of
I got to
CPR.
check where they're choking.
Maybe that shock will cause them to
I mean, it actually probably would work.
It's a new, rarely used Heimlich maneuver.
They're not allowed called. They're not allowed to call it the Heimlich maneuver.
Yeah, I heard that. It's so stupid.
Yeah,
The family wants residuals or some shit.
Right.
It's so dumb.
I feel that's public domain.
You know what? I'm saying it. I'm still calling it that. Fuck those people.
Tongue in cheek. Yeah. So I mean, if they didn't say no, it's a yes. Now, in realization.
Oh, so somebody take that sound clip.
It's not.
It's sound by Scott.
Yeah. In realization, I did ask. They were gracious enough to gift me a 6-pack while I was in Ontario, and I was gracious enough to give a couple of them to Greg while I visited him.
Yeah, I can't remember how many Scott brought over, but this is the last one that remains. So,
and it's very tasty. Anyway, continue, Greg. I'm sorry.
Well, basically,
quit talking over Greg there, Scott.
Jesus. Anyways, no, Scott was nice enough to bring me. He brought me some regular Moosehead, which I trashed on the last beer analysis. So now he'll never bring me any more Moosehead again. But yeah, he brought me a few of these, and I've been enjoying them. I had to make sure that this can was separated because we had probably about 100 beers in various fridges for the piss up, and most of them disappeared. There's some left that I enjoyed after the fact, but they went pretty quickly. So I made sure to hide this beer in a separate fridge so it wouldn't accidentally get drank. But yes, so that's my history with it. This is my probably third or fourth can of it. How exciting!
Yay!
He actually hid it in one of the cat boxes in one of his multitude of unused shower stalls in his house.
actually, for the first time in forever, all the shower stalls were actually used during those few days.
Wow!
Yeah, and the one in the basement rarely gets used. I think Kara was the first one to use that in probably a year.
Oh, it's haunted.
Oh wow, Legionnaire's disease. All right.
I mean the main floor one we used to wash the dogs, but the basement one we just almost never use.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Let's go over to Lee. Lee, what's your history of the beer? I know you got a more in-depth history than they do.
Well, yeah, I've reviewed this beer before, back when it first came out in can form in 2020. I did do a review. It was not a super positive one. We'll see how that changes, if it does so or not later. But yeah, I had it like once before. I might have had it twice. I can't quite remember, but I did have it once for review, and I watched the review tonight, and I was like, oh, I did not like this all that much. And so, yeah, we'll get into it.
Have a hate on for anything hazy, if I'm being honest.
Kind of have a hate on for anything back talking me from fucking New Brunswick too, but it's still in the show. So
I wouldn't really call this a hazy, but
okay, let's go over to Scott. Scott, what's your history with this poison?
So this would not be poison. It's all the other IPAs that are poison. So the history with this one, this is my 13th beer, and for various other reasons, I've enjoyed a few pints of this, whether it be on the deck at small batch or in 6-pack form, or cheersing Andrew Olin with it.
Wow. Cheers.
He sat right beside me. And he says, "Cheers, Scott," and he gave me a cheers with a small batch in his hand, in my hand, and we enjoyed it during a meeting.
That's pretty cool. Hobnobbing with the CEO. Yeah. Did he give you a raise too?
I have only been working there for 14 weeks.
You deserve.
Is it really only 14 weeks so far?
Yes.
Feels longer.
Yeah,
and you've already been the greatest brand ambassador for Moosehead that we've seen in this century. So you should get a raise.
You haven't seen anybody else.
That's beside the point, really.
I feel you lived up to everything that we hoped Nick would accomplish.
All right.
I've
All right,
had some positive reviews so far for my job performance at my position.
There you go.
So it's almost like, Scott, what's your history with this job?
That's right.
Here you go. All right.
And I've had this beer. I don't know. I didn't have it back in 2020. This would be my first year having it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay.
I didn't have it when it first came out. I only had it in the second
Well, it's been
rendition
out
of it.
continuously since it was released originally. Anyway,
I haven't had it since this year.
okay. All right. So thank you, Scott. Let's go over to my history, and I'll talk about. Well, I mean, I did my review of it when it first came out. I think when I heard that Moosehead had released a small batch East Coast and West Coast, I didn't get a chance to try it until it came out in cans, and I reviewed both on the same night in the same video. I think it was. I closed the browser tab. No, it's right here. It was review number 1193-94, if anybody cares. But yeah, like I remember, I think I liked the East Coast better than the West Coast, and that's still kind of true. But I did like them both, if I recall correctly. Anyway, the history that I've got goes further than just that, because, like I was just saying, small batch East Coast IPA has been, despite not being very well available, it's been in continuous production for the last 3 years. I've been able to go to the Moosehead brewery and just go buy and one of the things I love is before they came out with 12 packs, and I think they still have the 6 packs. I'm not sure, but I used to be able to just go in and buy a 6 pack of this stuff, which was super cheap. It was like $15, and then I could have 6 cans of IPAs if I wanted some kind of like maintenance beer, hazy. Debatable whether it's hazy. It kind of does look hazy for there. So if I'm in the mood for drinking some IPAs, I could easily augment it by just buying a 6 pack of these and just having a bunch. I haven't tried the 12 pack yet. I assume that there's really nothing different.
It's the same. It's the same as 6 pack,
The
but
same
in
fucking
12.
beer.
Crazy.
But yeah, this has actually been one of my Moosehead go-tos since then, because I like hazy IPAs. I like New England style IPAs. So the mere fact that I can get a 6 pack of this stuff for super cheap, and I just one little buy once in a while. I've talked about it before, but I'll do a weekend bike ride on West Side St. John, where the brewery is, where our starting point is actually Moosehead, and our ending point is Moosehead, which means that after each ride, we'll stop and have a beer. And half the time, it's probably a Moosehead small batch IPA, unless there's something more interesting on tap that'll have for an after ride pint. Although there's a new beer from Small Batch that just came out. I think it's the Hoppy Light Lager or something like that. I had to try that one last week.
Delicious. I had one today.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was pretty good. Then I had it on Saturday. And looking forward to maybe having another one this coming Saturday as well. All right, so that's my history. I guess maybe one of the most extensive histories here, but not quite as interesting as what Scott said. Cheersing the CEO of Moosehead. Anyway, anybody want to read the comments? There's not many, but we might as well read them.
I will read them.
All right.
Okay, so Marson continues to go on and say, hell of a history, Redbeard. Yeah. In relation to, I believe, Scott walking out with the beer. Once in a dumpster, it's free for all. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
That'll hold up in court.
Mm-hmm. He asked the garbage man just before he's about to take the dumpster. Yeah. Then we got Justin Tinker in here saying, glad to see the channel picked up a sponsor. Red Green product placement on Lee's headset. Duct tape forever. Hashtag duct tape forever. Yes. And I'm just agreeing with him. Yes, this will make do until I get to the store to get a new one. So
there you go.
I kind of wanted to see you keep using this.
How many views? How many people do we have watching?
A lot.
4 right now. It says to me.
Was it 4? Okay. Oh, now it's changed to 4. Okay.
It's funny when on the weeks where the show's a sausage fest, we don't seem to get any viewers. I wonder why.
Yeah. There's no lady in the chat. And there won't be for a while because she's gone back to school. So you might as well just unsub now.
All right, I'm on 7.
Got to learn to train
All right,
those
it was nice
kids.
talking to you guys.
Yeah, this is the last.
We actually
episode.
went to
Bye.
8 viewers because after saying that.
Wow.
Like, hey, wow, we actually went up. Sausage party.
Crazy.
I was gonna say you said the word lady, Nick, so automatically a bunch of
Said the
algorithms kicked in.
Oh, is Lady Lee here? Yeah, then all of a sudden the viewership dropped to 5.
I'd refresh that page and see now. Refresh that page and see what the viewership.
But Nick has promised us any moment there might be titties in the chat, so everyone join. We don't say who's titties.
No, I didn't want to say.
All right.
No, didn't want to say that.
Okay.
Oh god.
Yeah. So.
All right. So let's talk about what we think about the beer. Nick, you go first this time.
Oh wow.
And don't you MC my show?
This
is the
I MC your life.
I was thinking like
life.
I have the can that Scott gave me and hand delivered to me.
Wow.
And then I've got a can left over from my New Brunswick mixer pack that I bought for New Brunswick Day a month ago.
That
and
I can't get for free.
Yeah, you have to go buy it.
I actually have to go buy the mixer pack at full price.
Might be why there's a whole ton of them still sitting at the small batch brewery. But I noticed that these are separated in age by like eight minutes, according to this timestamp on the bottom of the can.
It's like Nick and Scott.
Separated by 8 minutes.
Probably
actually,
the
yes.
same.
That's actually
the same
quite true.
large.
It takes
small
8 minutes
batch.
for me to drive to Nick's house.
And the time that these two were made, we could drive over and I could grab another one out of your fridge.
That was my last one.
Well, maybe not
Yeah,
now.
damn it.
You're about 5 beers in right now, Nick. I think so.
No, 2.
Oh, okay.
This is my first
Nick,
beer.
go
I've
ahead.
had since I got home.
Tell me about your thoughts about this beer, Nick.
It's 2 kegs in.
That's not
I'm going
Nick.
back around. No, it's not because I'm going to go back around and do a normal order that I normally always do.
Wow.
So I'm going to order Redbeard.
There will be no chaos in this.
Apparently not.
Order.
Nice try, Scott.
Like I said, I've had this. When I had it at the Moose originally, keg seemed pretty fresh. It was delicious. Last time I had it, started to go a bit malty. I mentioned it. They actually went there last night for a pint after deliveries, and it's not on tap anymore. This particular can is also a bit past its prime. It's not to the point where it's bad yet, but it's definitely got a malty takeover happening. It's there's still a little bit kind of on the back end of a little bit of a juicy hint going on. But again, I had this at one point when it was kind of at its prime, and when it's good, it's really good. So personal enjoyment, this one I'm going to go 5.5. Style, because I do know the style is really good, I'm going to give that an 8.5. So, yeah.
8.5 per style and 5.5. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Greg.
So
Hey, Greg.
if I'm reading this canning date correctly, it looks like mine was canned on April 13th. It says D13, then just another 3. I'm assuming
I think that's what that means. D means 4th month. Unless
13.
it's I, then they
I don't know.
I.
I don't know the intro.
Well, I mean, so that would be kind of old if that is in fact the canning date on this. So I'm going to say with this, it's a good beer. Now, I said last time when I was kind of talking about the lager, and that Moosehead is capable of making good beers. I don't think their lager is a great example of that, but I think this is a pretty good example of that. Now, the biggest problem with this is it's definitely dumbed down for the masses. It's definitely kind of comes off as a bit of my first IPA type thing. At least now that I'm tasting it. I mean, if it in fact is from April, then that also might explain my opinion because, there'd probably be a whole lot more hoppy taste to it if I had it 4 or 5 months ago. But based on what I'm tasting now, this really comes off to me as kind of my first IPA where it's good, it's smooth. there's not a whole lot going on to it. Like, even just drinking this octopus next to it, which is probably fucking up my palate. And this is a pretty, this isn't too adventurous of an IPA either, but it's, it got a lot more hoppiness to it. It's a lot smoother. Like, don't get me wrong, it's got a good taste to it, but it's like, if you're really craving any kind of, hoppiness or something to it, you're not really getting much of that to this. But you know what? Overall, I do like it. Like, I almost think, like, call me crazy, but at 5.9%,
You're crazy.
Well, yes, everyone knows that. That's why I told you to call me crazy, and you obliged. I feel at 5.9%. I mean, could you get away with just calling this like a pale ale? And I'd probably be wanting to give it a higher rating as a style, as a pale ale, because I'd be, this is a really good pale ale. As an IPA, it's like it's kind of a bit of a muted IPA. So, anyways, style. I'm gonna go a little slower on style. I'm gonna say about a 6.5 on style, just because it's fine. I just think if I'm rating against IPA, there's a lot of competition. So, I got a 6.5 is probably even a little generous. Personal enjoyment, especially if I consider this might be a 5-month-old can. I'm gonna go 8. Actually, I like it. I'm enjoying it. It's not gonna be. It wouldn't be my, at least in this current state, it wouldn't be in my rotation of favorite IPAs. But you know what? I've had a lot worse IPAs too, because it's surprisingly easy to fuck up an IPA, it seems. So I mean, it's really one of those things. There's just nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing that exciting about it either. But it could be a summer. It could actually make for a good pool IPA potentially, because it's not super high in alcohol. And it's not super strong in flavor, so you could probably have a few of them. So yeah, 6.5 and an 8 is where I'm at.
Nice. All right, thank you, Greg. Let's go over to Lee.
Yeah. So I suspect, yes, if it ends up being the truth that like I've got the same canning date as Greg does. So I suspect yes, maybe older can, because it does taste a little bit dumbed down than what I remember, like a little bit more malty forward, like Redbeard was saying, and I actually prefer it that way, honestly. So honestly, if this beer of some age on it sitting on the shelf apparently is more my preferred version of it, because when I first reviewed it, I was like, I don't like juicy, hazy IPAs all that much. And the one I had sort of more fresh was sort of a, like Greg said, it's kind of a basic bitch one. Like it's very much like, this is my first hazy, like very, very smart idea for Moosehead to, jump on the bandwagon and make a very accessible East Coast IPA. So, I'm not going to criticize there at all. But yeah, I actually kind of prefer it a little bit more malt on the malty side, the sort of hoppiness dumbed down a little bit, because it's got those juicy fruit flavors that I'm not really into. Like it's more on the like melon pineapple side, all sort of brought together of kind of a citrus thing that I'm okay with, but like the melon pineapple, I can do without that personally. But as it tastes right now, it tastes pretty good. Like the maltiness comes up. And so it tastes more in line with the sort of IPA that I enjoy, actually. And the fruit flavors have kind of become a bit more muted from the hops. So I originally gave this a 5 for style, which I feel like now I'm thinking about it, was probably a grossly unfair rating in the first place. I'd say, honestly, thinking back how it is fresh and how it is right now, I'd probably throw about a 7 on it for style, because I think actually it does sort of capture like your basic kind of entry level hazy pretty well. Personal preference, I think I gave it a 6 when I first reviewed it, and I'll stay at 6, I guess. I found it, drinkable, basically, like drinkable, but I would not buy it again is kind of where my 6 sort of lies when I do a review. So I think I'm still at that kind of stage. Like, someone hands it to me, I'm going to drink it because it's perfectly fine. It's just not something I'd seek out and necessarily buy. But yeah, it's it's better than what I remembered, even in its, even though it is in kind of an older state. But yeah, there you go.
All right. Cheers, Lee. Thank you for that. All right. Now it's Scott's turn. Then I'll go.
All right.
Don't disparage it.
I'll try my best. So I initially don't like IPAs. I'm not a big IPA fan. I like lagers. But this I actually quite enjoy a lot. It has a very fruity taste to it still. I actually recommended it to a cruise ship passenger Monday. Monday when I went into work. Cruise ship was in town, and I recommended that. They said, well, I don't know. I said, what kind of drinks do you like? Well, I like fruity stuff. I said, all right, try the ginger and the radler and they were going for a flight. I said, ginger, radler, raspberry,
Hoppy
wheat.
Light.
And no, I didn't tell him Hoppy Light. And I told him to try this IPA because I find it has a fruity taste to it, a fruitier taste than other traditional IPAs. So, and I'm not a big fan of from Radlers. There's a few Radlers I do like. There's a few Radlers I don't. So, saying all that, I'm all over the map. But for this particular style, I don't find it a consistent East Coast IPA. I think it's a little light. I will give it a 7 for style. It still has that IPA base to it, but I think it needs a little bit more hops to be really an IPA. I think it needs to be a little bit more bitter. For personal enjoyment, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I do really enjoy this beer because it has a little bit more flavor to it, but doesn't have the right IPA style. And I think Lee said it best, that he said he would make it what kind did you say, Lee?
Greg said he'd make it a pale ale.
Yeah.
Oh, Greg said that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I would mark it as a pale ale personally.
yeah.
I agree. I agree with Greg on that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It is definitely light for an IPA. 5.9.
Yeah. So I would agree with Greg and say, maybe this is a special pale ale rather than an IPA.
It could be an extra
still
pale ale.
Extra pale ale.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Stifler's Pale Ale.
an imperial pale ale. No.
So,
So
Nick, well done.
So, but I do
Good
enjoy
reference.
it. Very good. I'm wondering, what is your times on your canning? I also have D13 for that.
Mine is-
648 on mine.
Mine is 1209.
Mine is 638.
Mine is 306.
Mine is also 638.
Ooh.
My second
Wow.
can is 638. The one that didn't come from Scott.
Wow.
Damn.
They're all D13s, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So it
the
sounds
small
like
batch. That's basically a large small batch was made.
So
at the
they're
same time.
doing at least 3 cans a minute.
we do way more than 3 cans a minute. But it sounds like it's all on the same day, ran from noon until at least 6 p.m.
It's probably like we're canning Moosehead small batch today, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, they have batches. But it sounds like they ran a whole afternoon shift.
Well, does Moosehead have only one canning line? They must have a couple or a few.
No, one canning. Well, they have multiple, but they only use.
Big ass canning line.
Yeah.
They have a large canning line and a large bottle line, and then they have a keg line, and then they have a small canning line that they use for. Yeah, they use for.
For kegs, okay.
They have a keg line, they have a bottle line, and they have a can line. And then they have a small can line they use for special feature.
I think the craziest thing would be that they're filling enough kegs that they actually need an automated line. Like most breweries, keg comes in, fill the keg, move it along, fill the keg. Like to actually have that done by machines, that's pretty crazy.
Not only a machine, a robot arm grabs the keg, puts it up to a second level, fills it, and then puts it down again to the same level, to this first level, and then picks up another one.
Now, what happens if you ask that robot arm for beer?
What do you mean?
All right, well, if you want to get free beer, can you ask the robot arm, and if it doesn't reply, you can just take whatever beer it's holding?
How articulate? Articulate is the robot? If no one else is around late at night, what could that robot do for you?
Knock you out. It could knock you out. It goes fast.
And rip your dick clean off.
Huge. Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh, so you've never tried to get a late night handy from it?
No. It's a big beast. Because it's the kegger, right? So it has to grab a keg of various sizes too. There's some different sizes of kegs. So it's just giant arms and goes clunk, clunk.
So hypothetically, if Nick came in at night and tried to get a handy,
I was just gonna say.
The kegger.
Are you trying to get a hand job from a kegger?
The kegger might have a hard time.
Hard time.
Nice.
All I'm hearing is that Scott's going to invite us down there for a big Moosehead sex party after hours.
The canner automator is really, really cool. It will see this. It will recognize the box coming off the line and orientate it in a way that'll pack the pallet efficiently and quickly, and then it wraps up, and then it uses a rubber. No, then it wraps up in plastic and sends it there. It's pretty cool. It's a brand new one. It was put in just last year. It does use protection, and then gets a stamp. It's really cool.
See,
if you do ever come to St. John, I can give you a really nice brewery tour. Better than anybody else that would get it off a cruise ship.
I see in the chat there, Marcin asked the question, what's considered a small batch? I know in like home brewing terms, like that's like any batch of beer you do that's under 5 gallons. I don't know if that's still applied to like a bigger brewery or not.
Definitely not.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm assuming not.
Yeah, that would be a very small batch for Moosehead.
So I feel like when in the terms of like an actual like working brewery, Marcin, it's probably more like just a limited run of beer, maybe a little bit less than a seasonal, or maybe on par with a seasonal. So however many gallons that would be, but it's usually like a limited run instead of like a year-round run of a certain brand of beer or whatever.
So Moosehead doesn't do a year-round run of anything because they have so many products. And small batch would probably be less than 50,000 units.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So we probably 30 to 50,000 might be a small batch.
And I mean, I think it varies brewery to brewery. Like Moosehead is going to have different definition of small batch.
Yeah, different definition.
Oh yeah, some
probably it's probably.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's probably because like when you think about Moosehead making Moosehead lager on a large scale, they're using those massive tanks that you can see from a satellite view. But the ones that they would probably use and bill as small batch are probably the ones that they use that are actually on the small batch brewery side that are more the size of a normal microbrewery.
So these small batch IPA canned would have gone through the big batch process.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have gone through the small batch process, which is coming from those inside things.
So it's probably because the recipe was designed on the small batch process, then they upped it to produce in one of those big tanks.
Right. And it's probably one or two of those big tanks, and that's it. Where a Moosehead lager is going to be 6 of those big tanks, because the ones you see on the outside are only half the amount.
So at this point, them having small batch on this can of beer, that's not really a small batch of beer, no matter
Well,
It's
technically, it
more
is
like
a small batch.
small batch and
It's-
Goose Island
comparatively.
IPA. to
I'd
me.
say it's smaller. It's a smaller batch.
It's probably akin to like Goose Island IPA. It's
I mean, they
small
don't
batch.
make as much of this as they do just the Moosehead
Yeah,
lager. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
And then,
I think, and like a normal, like a small craft brewery, some of them, like their small batch can vary from like
Oh, yeah. Some of them.
one full batch. So some of them will do like they've got pilot systems where they'll brew like one keg's worth of beer basically and be like,
Mhm.
that's all you get. Like,
Oh yeah,
some of them-
especially if you get like a pop-up nano brewery or whatever. They're basically just doing home brewing out of a fucking storefront or whatever, right?
yeah. So, some of those small batch test machine things, they can brew some pretty badass stuff, and it's like all almost automated. It's pretty cool. Even the one they had at the Cayman Kettle that I went with Chad there years ago, it was not as awesome as some of them can be, but even that was pretty almost foolproof. It was pretty cool.
Greg, is that your dog breathing?
no, I don't know what that sound is. It's not me.
Are you okay, Nick?
Huh?
It's
What?
not Nick.
I think that was Nick breathing.
Oh,
Yeah.
it sounded
Maybe.
laborious.
The poor man's just probably he's just having a wank under the table. Let him finish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I am stuffed up a little right now. So
Are we still talking about? Are we still talking about Greg's dog or Nick?
well, we were talking to you about Moosehead beer, and then it kind of went on a tangent. And then,
My
dog
dog
is-
is
definition-
there, and
'cause-
she's making.
And you're finally getting your revenge because I didn't let you take control of the show. And then,
I gave you
right.
my scores, didn't I? Yeah.
yeah, you did. It was 7 and 8-5.
A lot
Yeah,
of
mine-
passive
mine's not,
aggressiveness.
my scores. I'm kidding. Anyway. Well, all right. I'm just tired. All right. So yeah, flavors of mild grapefruit resin. Mild grapefruit melon. Got a very soft body to it, and almost like getting into it like a soft sweetness to it. There's a little almost like a soapy resin that's coming in. I mean, this can is technically 4.5 months old, so it's starting to get a little on the resiny side. That's kind of where I know Kerry was saying it was that he starts getting malty when the hops start to fade off and something like this. I always find that what it starts to taste like to me is like the stuff starts to taste like almost like resin, and the sweetness and the hops disappear. Right now it's in a good spot, but it's starting to get resiny, and I prefer it a little fresher, but that really comes down to my main caveat with this beer. As much as I like it, it's a beer that tends to be sold in quantities that turn itself into a shelf turd. Like you want to buy it in 6-packs, 12-packs. They're going to be sitting around on liquor store shelves for a while, rather than a individual can. And even sometimes those cans, like it's just the way that their production runs on these. It's not a beer style that ages that long. Like usually you want a New England style IPA drank within the like first 2 months of its production, whereas this stuff it might take 2 months for it to get to somewhere it's going to be sold.
Hold on,
It's okay though. I like it.
Can I just stop you for a second? Because I've heard this mentioned numerous times. This is not a New England IPA, is it? Like, am I missing something? It's an East Coast IPA.
Correct.
Yeah. So this isn't a hazy. It's not a New England. It's the East Coast.
I mean, I think it's supposed to nebulously kind of fit in that market, though.
It's classified. It's classified as a New England style IPA on.
Is
Untappd.
it? Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
Because to me it doesn't. To me it doesn't strike me as a hazy. It strikes me as the East Coast that were kind of a thing before hazies became a thing. It's like, oh well, you like West Coast, but we're gonna make it a little sweeter for you.
I wouldn't even call it that. I wouldn't call it your old school East Coast IPA. It's kind of more of the East Coast IPA definition that came about after the because I always found like East Coast IPAs had more of a malty backbone than something like this has, whereas this is definitely hazy juicy territory. Hazy juicy territory.
Yeah, you don't have the inherent kind of grapefruity, pineapple-y though that you usually get with those beers. Nor at least to me, it doesn't look that hazy either. But
well, I always typify like West Coast IPAs used to have the like clean, almost lager-like finish on a piney, sometimes grapefruity IPA, whereas East Coast was definitely like fuller and maltier and like hops and malt balance kind of thing like that. And sometimes it's just a mess of everything. But then they came out with the like the Vermont style like heady topper from the Alchemist that kind of like redefined what an East Coast was. But that's even been relegated to the trash heap of history and the fact that that's more Vermont style these days. And then when the New England style came out, the average Joe probably knows more, but the origins, I can't remember the name of that brewery. That's like, was it New York or somewhere in that part of the US that really like popularized the East Coast IPA. And this is definitely dumbed down for an East Coast for a New England style IPA, but this is definitely more akin to that rather than an East Coast IPA that we used to call it like 10 years ago. So anyway.
To be honest, this reminds me of an East Coast, but I haven't had one forever, so my memory might be admittedly hazy.
Hazy.
See what I did there?
Anyway, so but the biggest thing I'm trying to get across here is that I find that it like, of course, yes, it is dumbed down. I still like it. You're right, it is definitely weaker in the sense that it should be more of a hazy pale ale, because that's kind of what it is. But yeah, like my thoughts are it's a beer that this particular beer might sit around for a while on the shelf. For example, we're drinking 4-month-old cans. We're probably drinking it on the fresher scale. These things can sit around for a while in the liquor stores, and I find that your results can be hit or miss when you buy a pack of these. I've bought a pack of these before, and they just straight up taste like resin. And I've bought a pack of these before where they just like juiciest thing I can imagine. And sometimes I usually get these like, and it's hit or miss. Like I find that Moosehead is kind of like tweaking the recipe a little bit, where sometimes they come off sweeter, sometimes they come off. This one here I find is a little on the maybe weak side, but still very tasty. For the style, I'm going to give it a 7. Overall enjoyment is 7.5. Middle of the road. I enjoy it. It's not my favorite, but I'll buy it every once in a while.
I would love to try this fresh if I ever could.
Yeah,
it's really good. It's really good when it's fresh.
You'd have to come down to the St. John at some point, Greg.
Well, at some point, let me know when a fresh batch comes out. Maybe I will.
Drive your Camaro or your Corvette.
I mean, I could get the schedule of the brewing schedule.
Oh, there you go.
I know where it is.
Now I just need Nick to host another piss up, and we'll maybe
there
talk.
You go.
Or maybe Scott will host the piss up.
Scott will host the piss up. Well, technically, the piss up was a hotel room in
and I mean, to be fair, chances are I probably would be getting a hotel room. So yeah, I guess I'd be hosting the piss up.
You'd be hosting the piss up. You just come down for a visit. I'll show you around, man. I'll see if I can get some time off
I would. I would actually probably. Well,
you could play Lady Lee's, and go eat all the seafood you can when you're down here. And
I'm glad that's the only part I'm going to play in that.
I can vouch for Nick being an excellent tour guide. So.
Oh yeah, and I would definitely be. Listen, I will. Quick story. Not that anyone cares. We went to all you can eat sushi, and I would say me and Lady Lee were probably on par in terms of eating sushi. But the thing to take into account is that Lady Lee is literally half my size, and she was able to keep up with me eating wise. So I mean,
other thing to take into account is always keep an eye out for random rodents, because you get half off our bill.
Yeah, that was actually pretty amazing. It's a fairly expensive place too, so it was like 50% off because they found a half dead mouse or something on the floor.
Wow. This mouse, I don't know, the manager guy comes around with a napkin, picks it up with a napkin as if it's a spider or something. He then apologizes and walks away. And
I mean, I feel bad because he probably literally just threw it into like a fryer or something and like cooked it up.
What the fuck?
And what's the name of this restaurant?
You or Lady Lee probably ate that mouse in one of the
I
things that you ordered.
mean, you're probably not wrong. We did not discriminate against.
Well,
Remember,
anyone.
it's sushi, so you probably ate it raw.
Does this place have a Chinese takeout at the back?
Wow.
Not that
Does
I'm
it have
aware
a
of.
dirty hood fan?
Does it have a dirty hood?
I actually think Carrie inspected it. I think he thought it was.
No,
okay.
their kitchen wasn't visible. I didn't see
okay.
anything. Well, they had like the guys out front doing the sushi bar thing, but there's no
See?
hood
Yeah.
there. So, but yeah, I tried a couple things. I wasn't. Yeah.
No, you were not having a good time.
Yeah, wasn't for me.
All right, Nick, do you have the scores?
I'm working on it.
All right, I'll read the other two comments we got. So Radar was in the chat, and he says Lee is also sponsored by Gillette, Vaseline, and Head Bashers of Marxism Party of Canada.
Well, I don't see that comment at all.
Okay.
No,
I do.
I see it as well.
Oh, okay. That's weird. It's not on my thing anyway.
Mm. And Dan asked the important question, so we'll get to that at the end of the show. And Marson says, "Are there dogs and cats running around?" I assume he means at the restaurant.
No, there were only a dying mouse to our knowledge. Nothing else.
No other pets.
There was one while we were there. One, he is a little chubby, I guess, but Asian looking guy came
That's
and
not
sat
a way-
down and had like his own like all you can eat thing, and he sat there with his one hand on his phone, reading something, doing something with his phone, and just like he must have put away, I don't know, 5 or 6 pounds. He was just putting that shit away without even looking at it. It was fucking pretty mesmerizing to watch.
Yeah, he was enjoying his all-you-can-eat experience.
It's kind of funny.
I actually feel I didn't eat all I could eat, but that's okay because I wasn't in a food coma for the rest of the day. So,
And everyone else was.
Marson clarified here. There you go, dogs and cats on the menu.
Nice.
Saying you don't see dogs and cats running around, they're on the menu.
I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, it probably wouldn't have slowed us down either. Be like,
I mean, if it's
it
prepared well enough, I guess.
And then we went to a massive comic book shop, and I kept finding like quiet corners to like fart while Lee and Carrie were actually looking at stuff. I'm just like, I need to fart right now, so I'm just gonna go in this corner.
I'm gonna go over here and fart in Boba Fett's face.
Yeah, basically that's what I was doing.
The amount of like statuettes and kind of cool. They had some really well detailed,
Here you go.
awesome shit in that store. It was pretty cool. And actually, the other store we went to where the guy acted like he didn't want us to even be there. He actually had an awesome Doctor Doom statue. It was pretty cool. But all right, scores. Go ahead, Nick.
All right, so scores are not with Lee. Yeah,
Or not with Lee.
Yeah, no one scores with Lee.
Oh, that was a good one.
you know that's not entirely wrong or entirely accurate because Lee scored with you.
Yeah, I think she disagreed that she scored.
Wow.
You're being so hard on yourself, there, Lee.
Yeah,
You know
you should be hard on others.
You give others the hard on. You mean?
Yeah.
The style 7-2. It's weird that the style beat the overall. I was thinking the overall beat the style.
Well, somebody gave it an 8.5.
For style?
Yep.
Yeah, I would
All
personally,
right.
I would personally disagree. I think the style is poor. I think if they called it a pale ale, I would have rated it higher. But overall, good beer, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess that's pretty. It scored pretty high, considering.
Yeah,
I think it's a fair
I
score.
thought it's pretty fair. Good. It's a decent beer.
Yeah,
it's no bone shaker, but it's good.
But
I
what
don't
is a
mind
bone
it.
shaker, really?
There you go. You shake your bone.
it's kind of right where we were all sort of saying it was, where it's like, hey, my first East Coast IPA, like that kind of. That's kind of where I.
Are you calling this the Fisher Price of East Coast IPAs?
Yeah,
I
kind of.
mean,
Yes.
Like it's basically like like when you got Lego, but then and Carrie will know which one I'm talking about. You've got the bigger version of Lego for the little kids.
Duplos.
Yeah,
Duplos. That's what they are. Yeah, this is the Duplos of IPA.
I'm the one with a 3-year-old. I can't see that. We still can't see that.
I mean, my dog's about 3 years old, so you know. But she doesn't play with Duplos.
He'll see that when he watches the replay.
It's hard to see.
Well, you got to blow it back up.
Yeah.
You got to blow it back up.
We need a bigger pencil. There we go.
There you go.
Hi, Jamie. All right.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess that's
1 hour on the mark.
that's that. So Dan asked the magic questions, so I might as well introduce it.
hi,
Next
Dan.
week hi Dan. Next week, Dan was supposed to be here, but his can blew up in the mail.
To be fair, not Dan's fault. We like to blame Dan for everything, and well, unfortunately, I can't prove to you guys that Lady Lee is better than Dan, but you guys are gonna have to take my word for it this week. But for once, we can't really blame Dan for this one. It was.
So, are we saying?
Canada Post's fault?
Are we saying Dan is better than Canada Post?
I would say,
yes.
yeah, but the thing is, Canada Post is not a very high bar. But
Yeah,
yes, I would say,
yeah. All right. So next week's beer is going to be a BY. We're going to do a BYOB again. It's going to be BYOB, your go-to beer for the summer. So, what was your go-to beer for this past summer?
I smell another Moosehead product coming up.
You probably do. Probably me as well. I was just thinking, like, it'd be a kind of a good excuse to just show off, like, as long as it's a beer you can still get right now. What did you drink a lot of in the summer? What was your favorite beer of the summer?
Wow,
Favorite beer of the summer, your go-to
Number
beer
2.
of the summer. There you go. Yep. That's fair. So
I just bought a case.
And yes, I think if Marston wants to be on the show, he's allowed. So so we'll tune in next week, and we'll have our go to. God, jeez, I got gas right. I'm trying to speak
All right.
here. Oh, so fuck.
Hey,
God damn,
Gary,
said man.
there you go. Good. Thank you.
we
Thank
always
you,
expect
Gary.
a little gas
Yeah,
from Nick.
we always have to show
Yes,
Carrie's
thank you,
penis, but I
thank
want to
you.
thank everybody for tuning in.
That's a big penis.
And we will chat with you folks later. Cheers.
Chris Peters killed those women.
No doubt about it.
Penis.
Wondering what
Nespi.
Redbeard's hand jobbing the penis right now.
No, he's fisting.
I can hear him clicking
That's
too.
the big.
I can
It's
hear
a
him
big.
click the penis. He's double clicking that penis.
He's double clicking
So
that
hard.
penis.
He's
He's making that
double-
penis real hard right now.
He is.